The Arena of Judgment. The celestial Colosseum floated in the void between star systems, a massive structure built by the ancient architects thousands of years ago. Every decade, the Galactic Federation gathered here for the Grand Combat Championships, where civilizations showcased their finest warriors. Victory meant prestige, trading advantages and respect across 1,000 worlds. Defeat meant ridicule that could last generations. This year, humanity had been invited for the first time. Earth had joined the Federation only 5 years earlier, and most species considered humans to be primitives who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. Their technology was centuries behind the major powers, and their understanding of advanced warfare was laughable to those who had conquered star systems. The tournament begins. The opening ceremony was spectacular. Holographic displays showed warriors from every corner of the galaxy. The Krillian dreadnoughts demonstrated their exoskeleton armor that could withstand planetary bombardment. The Ashari windsingers displayed their ability to manipulate atmospheric pressure with their minds. The Techborn Collective showed off their cybernetic enhancements that gave them superhuman speed and processing power. When Earth's delegation appeared on the screens, silence fell across the arena. Then laughter erupted. The human warriors wore simple tactical gear, carried projectile weapons, and had no visible enhancements. Ambassador Yuki Nakamura stood in the human observation deck, her jaw tight as she listened to the alien jeers echoing through the translation devices. They brought guns that shoot metal pellets, chittered High Chancellor Vrixis of the insectoid hives, his compound eyes gleaming with amusement. How delightfully primitive. Do they also plan to throw rocks? General Cormac of the Titan Legions, a massive being standing 4 meters tall, rumbled with deep laughter. I heard their soldiers still train with hand-to-hand combat. As if physical strength matters when plasma can vaporize flesh from kilometers away. Earth struggles. The preliminary rounds confirmed everyone's expectations. Lieutenant Marcus Chen faced a Krillian warrior in the first match. His rifle rounds sparked harmlessly off the alien's energy shields. When he tried close combat, the Krillian's powered armor simply batted him aside like an insect. Match over in 43 seconds. Sergeant Aisha Okonkwo lasted slightly longer against an Ashari opponent. She used clever tactics, smoke grenades, and strategic positioning, but when the Ashari simply removed all oxygen from her combat zone, she collapsed within 2 minutes. Captain James Rodriguez employed his entire arsenal against a tech-born fighter. Explosives, armor-piercing rounds, electromagnetic pulses, nothing worked. The Tech-born's predictive algorithms calculated every move 3 seconds before Rodriguez made them. The match ended in humiliating defeat. By the end of the first day, Earth had lost every single match. The scoreboard displayed humanity's standing in glowing numbers, dead last out of 47 competing civilizations. The viewing galleries erupted in mockery. Perhaps we should create a children's division for them, suggested Ambassador Thelrix of the Aquarian Depths, her translator rendering her aquatic sounds into condescending tones. The unexpected champion. That evening, Ambassador Nakamura sat in the human quarters reviewing the disastrous results. Her tactical team looked defeated. Then Master Kenji Tanaka entered the room. At 71 years old, he was the oldest person in the entire tournament. He wore a simple black hakama and gi, and carried nothing but a cloth-wrapped bundle. Ambassador, he said quietly, bowing with perfect formality, I request permission to represent Earth in tomorrow's matches. The room fell silent. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, head of Earth's military delegation, spoke up. Master Tanaka, with all respect, our best Special Forces soldiers couldn't land a single hit. These aliens have technology that makes our equipment look like Stone Age tools. What can you possibly do with... She gestured at his bundle. Whatever that is, Kenji smiled gently. I carry what my ancestors carried, and I offer what technology cannot provide. Ambassador Nakamura studied the old man. She had known Kenji for years. He was the last true master of an ancient Japanese sword school, a tradition unbroken for 800 years. She had seen him move during demonstrations, and something about his presence commanded respect even in silence. The Federation rules allow any representative we choose, she said finally. Master Tanaka, you have my permission. But understand, if you fail, Earth's humiliation will be complete. I understand, Kenji replied, bowing again, but I will not fail. The challenge begins. The next morning, when Kenji's name appeared on the tournament roster, the alien delegations erupted in hysterical laughter. An elderly human with no armor, no weapons visible, no enhancements. The betting pools gave him odds of 10,000 to 1 against even landing a strike on his opponent. His opponent was elite commander Vex Thor of the Serpentine Empire, a being with scales harder than starship hull plating, reflexes enhanced by neural implants, and combat experience spanning 2 centuries. Vex Thor wielded an energy whip that could slice through reinforced steel and a plasma projector mounted on his wrist. As Kenji walked onto the arena floor, the crowd's laughter reached a crescendo. He moved with slow, deliberate steps, his posture perfect. When he reached the center, he carefully unwrapped his bundle, revealing a katana in a plain black scabbard. Vex Thor's forked tongue flickered in amusement. A sword? You bring a primitive blade to fight plasma and energy? Your species truly knows nothing of modern warfare. Kenji simply bowed, his expression serene. The arena's automated system announced the rules. Victory by incapacitation, surrender, or death. All weapons and abilities permitted. The countdown began. 10 seconds. The crowd watched with eager anticipation of a quick, brutal finish. 5 seconds. Kenji's breathing became perfectly rhythmic. 3 seconds. He placed his hand on the katana's handle. 1 second. His eyes opened and something changed in the atmosphere of the arena. 0. The dance of steel. Vex Thor struck immediately, his energy whip cracking through the air fast enough to create sonic booms. It could have decapitated a charging battle beast. But Kenji wasn't there. He had moved with such subtle grace that sensors barely registered the motion. The whip struck empty space. Vex Thor fired his plasma projector, 3 rapid bursts that would have melted through tank armor. Kenji flowed between the shots like water around stones, each movement minimal, precise, wasting no energy. His feet barely seemed to touch the ground. The Serpentine warrior's neural implants processed the situation. His opponent showed no fear response, no elevated stress markers. The old human's heartbeat was actually slower than when he entered the arena. Impossible. No unenhanced being maintained such calm under lethal assault. Vex Thor unleashed a combination attack. Energy whip high, plasma projector low, tail sweep at medium height. A triple threat that had defeated champion-level opponents. His tactical computer calculated a 99% hit probability. Kenji drew his sword. The movement was faster than thought. A single flowing motion that seemed to exist outside normal time. The blade sang as it left the scabbard, its edge catching the arena lights. In that instant, Kenji wasn't an old man but the embodiment of 8 centuries of warrior tradition. The energy whip met the katana's edge, and somehow, impossibly, was severed. The plasma bolts passed through space Kenji had already vacated. The tail sweep found only air, and Kenji was inside Vex Thor's guard. The impossible. Victory. What happened next lasted less than 3 seconds, but would be analyzed by military strategists across the galaxy for years. Kenji moved through a kata, a prearranged form of movements practiced 10,000 times until they became more than technique. They became art. His first strike disabled Vex Thor's plasma projector without breaking the scales, striking the precise junction where technology met biology. The second strike found a nerve cluster that the Serpentine warrior didn't even know was vulnerable, freezing his left side. The third strike placed the katana's tip against Vex Thor's throat, precisely at the soft point beneath his jaw. The arena fell into absolute silence. The automated system registered the match result. Victory to Master Kenji Tanaka of Earth. Time elapsed, 2.8 seconds. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Vex Thor, still frozen with the blade at his throat, spoke softly. How? My implants saw nothing. My armor registered no penetrating strikes. You carry no technology, no enhancements. How did you defeat me? Kenji lowered his blade and bowed respectfully. Because I carry something your technology cannot measure. 800 years of discipline, countless hours of practice, and the understanding that true strength comes not from weapons or armor, but from the warrior's spirit. He sheathed his katana in one smooth motion and helped Vex Thor to his feet. The arena transformed. The crowd remained silent as Kenji walked off the arena floor. Then slowly, from the Serpentine delegation, one being began a rhythmic clicking sound, their species' form of applause. Another joined. Then another. Within moments, the entire celestial coliseum erupted not in mockery, but in genuine respect. Ambassador Nakamura stood with tears in her eyes. Colonel Mitchell stared at the scoreboard in disbelief. Earth had won its first match, and in doing so had demonstrated something the galaxy had forgotten: that technology was not the only path to power. In the viewing galleries, the laughter had died. High Chancellor Vrixis leaned forward, his compound eyes focused intently. General Cormac stopped his mocking rumble. Ambassador Thelrix's expression shifted from condescension to curiosity. Master Kenji Tanaka had entered the arena as a symbol of Earth's primitive ways. He left it as something far more dangerous. A question mark that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare, strength, and the nature of power itself. And the tournament was only beginning. The Way of the Blade. The news of Master Kenji Tanaka's victory spread through the Celestial Coliseum like wildfire. Within hours, every delegation had reviewed the combat footage, slowing it down, analyzing every frame. Military computers across a dozen civilizations tried to calculate how an unenhanced human had defeated a warrior with centuries of experience and advanced technology. None could provide a satisfactory answer. The second challenge, the tournament administrators faced an unexpected problem. Kenji's victory had been so swift and decisive that it disrupted their carefully planned brackets. More importantly, it had captured the attention of species who had previously dismissed Earth entirely. Requests flooded in from warriors wanting to face the mysterious human swordsman. The next morning, Kenji sat in quiet meditation in the human quarters. Ambassador Nakamura approached hesitantly, not wanting to disturb his focus. Without opening his eyes, Kenji spoke. "You have concerns, Ambassador. The Federation has received challenges from 3 different civilizations," she said. "All elite-level fighters. They want to prove that your victory was luck or a fluke. Master Tanaka, you don't have to accept. We've already proven Earth can compete." Kenji opened his eyes, and Nakamura saw something ancient and unshakable in his gaze. "A single victory proves nothing except that one opponent underestimated us. To earn true respect, I must face stronger challenges. Tell the administrators I accept all 3 matches." Colonel Mitchell, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. 3 matches in one day? Master Tanaka, even with your skill, that's physically demanding for someone your age. These aren't exhibition matches. One mistake and you could be seriously injured or killed. Then I must not make mistakes, Kenji replied simply, rising to his feet with fluid grace that belied his 71 years. The Techborn challenge, his first opponent was Unit 7 Theta of the Techborn Collective, a being that was more machine than organic. Where Vexthor had relied on enhanced biology, the Techborn represented pure technological superiority. Its body contained 47 independent processors, predictive combat algorithms that could calculate 1 million scenarios per second, and weapon systems integrated directly into its mechanical frame. As they faced each other in the arena, Unit 7 Theta's optical sensors scanned Kenji continuously. "I have analyzed your previous match 1,473 times, the Techborn stated, its voice synthesized and emotionless. "I have identified your movement patterns, reaction times, and strike velocities. Victory probability, 98.6% in my favor." Kenji bowed respectfully. Numbers cannot capture everything. The match began. Unit 7 Theta attacked with mathematical precision, launching a barrage calculated to force Kenji into predictable defensive positions. Laser cutters, projectile weapons, electromagnetic nets, all deployed in a sequence designed to eliminate escape routes and guarantee a hit. But Kenji didn't move according to patterns. Each step seemed random yet perfectly placed. He advanced through the deadly geometry of weapons fire like a leaf dancing on wind. Impossible to predict because there was no rigid system to calculate. His movements came from intuition honed over decades, from a connection between mind and body that no algorithm could replicate. The art beyond logic, Unit 7 Theta's processors struggled with contradictory data. The human should have been hit 7 times already. The calculations were perfect, yet reality refused to match the predictions. For the first time in its existence, the Techborn experienced something approximating confusion. Kenji closed the distance. His katana moved in a strike that Unit 7 Theta's sensors registered as simultaneously too slow to be a threat and too fast to dodge. The blade found the junction between the Techborn's central processor housing and its primary power core. not cutting through the reinforced casing, but striking with such precise force that it disrupted the magnetic containment fields inside. Unit 7 Theta's systems flickered. Internal diagnostics showed no physical damage, yet 30% of its combat functions were offline. Impossible. The blade had transmitted kinetic force through solid metal casing without penetration, using principles of energy transfer that the Techborn's databases had no reference for. Kenji's second strike hit another junction point. More systems failed. The third strike, delivered with the same calm precision, disabled Unit 7 Theta's mobility systems entirely. The Techborn toppled, unable to stand, its processors racing to understand what had happened. "How?" it asked, genuine curiosity in its synthesized voice. "My calculations were flawless. You should not have won." "Your calculations assumed I would fight like a machine," Kenji replied, offering his hand to help the fallen opponent. "But I am human. We do not move by numbers. We move by spirit." The arena erupted in applause. The Techborn delegation, known for their cold logic and lack of emotion, stood in what could only be described as respect. The Titans' might. Kenji's second match of the day was against Warlord Brutok of the Titan Legions, and this would be his greatest physical challenge. Brutok stood 5 meters tall, weighed over 800 kilograms, and possessed strength that could crush starship bulkheads. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where survival required immense power. As Brutok entered the arena, each footstep shook the floor. His voice boomed like thunder. "Little human, I respect your skill against technological opponents, but against raw strength your tiny blade is meaningless. I will try to make your defeat quick and painless." There was no mockery in Brutok's words, only honest assessment. He truly believed that physical laws made Kenji's victory impossible. The match began. Brutok charged, each step covering meters of ground. When he swung his massive fist, the air itself howled. The blow could have pulverized stone. Kenji stepped aside with minimal movement, and the fist crashed into the arena floor, creating a crater 2 meters wide. Brutok swung again and again, each strike delivered with enough force to destroy vehicles. Kenji flowed around them all, never more than a hand's breadth from contact, yet never touched. To observers, it looked like a dance between giant and shadow, strength versus skill. Stand still and fight. Brutok roared in frustration, his pride stung by his inability to land a single hit. He activated his species' berserker rage, a biological enhancement that doubled his strength and speed. His next attack was so fast it created sonic booms. Kenji's counter was almost invisible. Instead of dodging, he stepped forward into Brutok's charge. His katana struck not to cut but to redirect. The blade touched Brutok's extended arm at a precise angle, using the Titan's own momentum against him. Simple physics, leverage, and timing. Brutok stumbled, his balance disrupted by forces he couldn't comprehend. How had something so small moved something so large? He tried to recover, but Kenji was already moving through his kata, each strike targeting nerve clusters, joint fulcrums, and balance points that existed even in the Titan's massive frame. None of the strikes were powerful enough to damage Brutok's dense musculature. But they didn't need to be. Kenji wasn't fighting strength with strength. He was demonstrating that technique could overcome raw power, that understanding the body's mechanics mattered more than the body's size. Brutok found himself on one knee, unable to stand, not because he was injured, but because Kenji's precise strikes had temporarily disrupted the neural pathways that controlled his leg muscles. The effect would last only minutes, but the match was decided. "How?" Brutok asked, his voice filled with wonder rather than anger. "You have the strength of a child compared to me. Yet you defeated me without even drawing blood." Kenji bowed deeply. "Because true martial arts is not about overpowering your opponent. It is about understanding the principles that govern all bodies, all motion, all balance. Your strength is impressive, Warlord Brutok, but strength without wisdom is just force waiting to be redirected." Brutok laughed, a sound like rolling thunder, and extended his massive hand. Kenji placed his small hand in it, and the Titan lifted him gently. "You have taught me a valuable lesson today, Master Tanaka. The Titan legions will remember this." The final test by evening, Kenji had won 3 consecutive matches against 3 completely different types of opponents. The galaxy watched in growing amazement. But his greatest challenge still awaited. The tournament's defending champion, Grandmaster Xylith of the Ashari, requested a match. The Ashari were beings of pure energy contained in crystalline forms. They could manipulate matter at the molecular level, phase through solid objects, and attack opponents from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Xylith had held the championship for 3 consecutive tournaments, defeating every challenger with ease. As they faced each other in the arena, Xylith's crystalline form pulsed with rainbow light. Master Tanaka, you have impressed many, but against an opponent who can become intangible, who can attack from angles that don't exist in 3-dimensional space, what can physical skill accomplish? It was a legitimate question. How could a sword strike something without physical form? How could technique defeat an opponent who could simply phase through any attack? Kenji stood in perfect stillness, his eyes closed. For a long moment he simply breathed, his katana still sheathed. The crowd waited in tense silence. Beyond the physical, when the match began, Xylith immediately phased into a semi-corporeal state and attacked from 4 directions simultaneously. Energy constructs striking from angles that should have been impossible to defend against. But Kenji moved not by sight but by something deeper. 800 years of his lineage had taught that true perception went beyond the eyes. His blade moved through patterns that seemed to cut not just space, but something more fundamental. Each strike created ripples in reality itself, subtle distortions that even an energy being couldn't ignore. Kenji had discovered something that advanced technology had overlooked, that discipline and focus could affect the fundamental fabric of existence. The ancient masters had called it ki, chi, or spirit energy. Modern science had dismissed it as mysticism, but as Kenji's blade traced patterns through the air, even the energy-based Ushiri could feel something affecting their form. It wasn't physical force. It was intention made manifest through perfect technique and unshakable will. Xylith tried to phase completely out of normal space, but found that Kenji's presence somehow anchored reality around him. The human's focused spirit created a field where energy beings couldn't simply vanish. For the first time in centuries, Xylith felt vulnerable. Impossible, Xylith whispered, their voice resonating through multiple frequencies. You have no technology, no enhancements, no energy manipulation abilities. Yet you affect me as if you possessed all 3. Kenji opened his eyes, and they held a light that technology couldn't measure, because I possess something more fundamental. The human spirit, refined through discipline, strengthened through dedication, and focused through purpose. This is what Earth brings to the galaxy. Not superior weapons or advanced technology, but the understanding that the warrior's true strength comes from within. The final strike. The climactic exchange lasted only seconds, but would be remembered for generations. Xylith gathered all their energy for a devastating attack, a technique that had never failed to overwhelm opponents. Kenji stood firm, his katana held in a guard position that 800 years of masters had perfected. When Xylith struck, Kenji didn't defend. He accepted the energy assault, letting it flow around him like water around stone. His spirit, his focused will, created a space where the physical and non-physical met, and in that space, his katana moved in a strike that transcended mere technique. The blade passed through Xylith's energy form not by cutting, but by creating a resonance that disrupted the crystalline matrix containing the Ushiri's consciousness. It was the ultimate demonstration of Kenji's philosophy. True mastery meant understanding the opponent so completely that victory became inevitable. Xylith's form flickered, their energy temporarily scattered by the strike. The arena's systems registered the disruption as a critical hit. Match over. As Xylith reformed, their crystalline structure pulsed with a color that translated as profound respect. Master Tanaka, I concede not just this match but my championship. You have shown the galaxy something we had forgotten. That consciousness, will, and spirit are forces as real as plasma or energy. Earth's warriors may lack our technology, but they possess something we have lost. The understanding that the greatest weapon is the disciplined mind. A new understanding. The celestial Colosseum erupted in applause that shook the ancient structure. Representatives from 1,000 worlds stood in recognition of what they had witnessed. Master Kenji Tanaka had not just won matches. He had challenged the galaxy's fundamental assumptions about strength, warfare, and the nature of power itself. Ambassador Nakamura watched with tears streaming down her face as alien delegations approached the human quarters, requesting audiences, seeking to understand Earth's martial traditions. Colonel Mitchell stood stunned, realizing that humanity's perceived weakness had become its greatest strength. That evening, As Kenji sat in meditation, he was approached by representatives from across the galaxy. Warriors who had mocked Earth now asked to learn from its masters. Scientists who had dismissed human philosophy now sought to understand the principles behind Kenji's techniques. Political leaders who had seen humans as primitives now recognized them as keepers of ancient wisdom that advanced civilizations had forgotten. The legacy begins. The tournament concluded with Earth placing among the top competitors, a position unthinkable just days before. But more importantly, humanity had earned something far more valuable than ranking: genuine respect from the galactic community. As Kenji prepared to return to Earth, Xylith approached him one final time. "Master Tanaka, what you have shared with us will change how the galaxy views martial arts, discipline, and the nature of strength. Will you teach others these principles?" Kenji smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening. "The principles cannot be taught through words alone. They must be lived, practiced, and earned through years of dedication. But yes, those who truly wish to learn will find teachers on Earth. We have much to offer the galaxy, not in weapons or technology, but in the understanding that true power comes from within." He bowed deeply to the assembled delegates. "We are honored to join the Galactic Federation, and we hope that our traditions, preserved through centuries of peace and practice, can help others remember what they have forgotten in their pursuit of technological advancement." Humanity's place. As the human delegation departed the Celestial Coliseum, they left behind a galaxy transformed. Trade negotiations that had been stalled suddenly accelerated, with civilizations eager to establish deeper connections with Earth. Military leaders requested exchanges to study human combat philosophy. Cultural ambassadors sought to understand the discipline that had produced a warrior like Kenji. Earth's status in the Federation had changed overnight. No longer seen as primitive newcomers, humans were now recognized as a species that had chosen a different path, one that valued internal development over external technology. And in doing so, they had preserved something precious that advanced civilizations had lost. Master Kenji Tanaka, at 71 years old, had accomplished what fleets of warships could not. He had won respect for humanity not through force or technology, but through the timeless principles of discipline, honor, and the warrior's spirit. His katana, forged by his ancestors 800 years ago, had cut through something more resistant than energy shields or powered armor. It had cut through prejudice and assumption. The return home. When Kenji returned to Earth, he resumed his quiet life, teaching students in his small dojo, practicing the same katas he had performed for 50 years. But now among his human students were beings from across the galaxy, warriors who had traveled light years to learn what technology could not teach them. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's skills. They had mocked humanity's reliance on ancient traditions and primitive techniques. But Master Kenji Tanaka had shown them something they could not ignore: that the greatest technology humanity possessed was the human spirit itself, refined through discipline, strengthened through practice, and made indomitable through purpose. And in the years that followed, as human martial arts masters traveled to distant worlds and alien students came to study on Earth, the galaxy learned what Kenji had always known: that true strength cannot be measured in weapons or armor, but in the unshakable will of the warrior who has mastered not just combat, but themselves. The Celestial Coliseum would host many more tournaments in the decades to come, but none would be as transformative as the year an elderly human with an ancient sword taught the galaxy that some truths are timeless, and that the most advanced civilization is not the one with the best technology, but the one that understands the depths of the warrior's heart.